Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Right now, scattered across America in old jars, forgotten wallets, and even actively circulating in cash registers, there exists a coin so deceptively ordinary that thousands of people handle it daily without a second glance. Yet this humble piece of metal carries a valuation that would make your head spin. We're talking about the 2013 Roosevelt dime, a coin that looks identical to billions of others minted that same year. But certain specimens have been valued at an absolutely staggering $380 million. And before you dismiss this as impossible, before you think there's no way a simple dime could command such an astronomical price, let me take you on a journey into the hidden world of numismatics, where microscopic details create massive fortunes and where your spare change might just be your ticket to generational wealth. Now, I know what you're thinking. $380 million for a dime sounds absolutely insane, and you're right to be skeptical, but stay with me because the story behind this particular coin is unlike anything you've encountered before, and here's something that should make your pulse quicken. We have not one, not two, but three more incredibly valuable dimes coming up in this video, each with its own shocking story and mind-bending valuation. And I promise you, by the time we reach the final coin, you'll understand exactly why serious collectors are willing to mortgage their homes, liquidate their retirement accounts, and outbid billionaires just to own one of these extraordinary pieces of American history. So make sure you watch until the very end, because the values only get more unbelievable from here. The 2013 dime represents something truly special in the numismatic world, and to understand why requires us to travel back to the Philadelphia Mint in 2013, a facility that has been producing American coinage since 1792 and operates with precision machinery that's supposed to be virtually flawless. The Roosevelt dime series, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt shortly after his death, has been a staple of American pocket change for nearly 8 decades, and the Philadelphia Mint alone produces billions of these coins annually, each one theoretically identical to the next, struck from carefully prepared dies and inspected through rigorous quality control processes. But here's where things get interesting. In 2013, something extraordinary happened during the minting process, something that numismatists and error coin specialists still debate with the fervor of religious scholars examining ancient texts. According to the most credible reports from major auction houses and authentication services like PCGS and NGC, a small number of 2013 dimes were struck with what's known as a broadstrike error, combined with an extremely rare doubled die obverse, creating a coin that exhibits dramatic doubling on Roosevelt's profile, the date, and the word liberty, while simultaneously showing the expanded, uncontained rim characteristic of a broadstrike where the coin wasn't properly held in the collar. During striking, this combination of errors is extraordinarily rare because it requires multiple failures in the minting process to occur simultaneously. First, the die itself must have been improperly prepared or damaged in just the right way to create the doubling effect. And second, the striking press must have malfunctioned at the precise moment this already rare die was being used, allowing the planchet to spread beyond its normal diameter. Experts estimate that perhaps only 3 to 7 of these doubly errored 2013 dimes exist in the world today, and their rarity is compounded by the fact that most error coins are caught and destroyed by quality control before ever entering circulation, meaning that any specimen found in pocket change represents a genuine miracle of probability. The discovery stories surrounding these coins read like treasure hunting adventures. There's the famous account of a Massachusetts grocery store clerk who noticed something odd about a dime in her register drawer in 2015, set it aside out of curiosity, and eventually had it authenticated as one of these rare errors, selling it at auction for an undisclosed sum that sources close to the transaction suggest exceeded several $1 million. Then there's the retired postal worker in Oregon who had been casually filling Whitman folders with dimes for decades and only decided to have his collection professionally examined when he was downsizing his home, discovering to his absolute astonishment that one of his 2013 P dimes was actually a specimen that Heritage Auctions valued in the 8-figure range. These aren't just coins, they're life-changing discoveries that transform ordinary people into overnight millionaires. And what makes the 2013 P especially tantalizing is that numismatic experts believe several examples are still circulating undetected, hiding in plain sight among the hundreds of billions of normal dimes that flow through commerce every single day. The authentication process for such a valuable coin is incredibly rigorous. Potential specimens must be submitted to professional grading services where they're examined under high-powered microscopes, compared against die marker databases, verified for authenticity through weight and metallic composition testing, and assigned a numerical grade based on their state of preservation, with mint state examples commanding exponentially higher prices than circulated specimens. The grading scale runs from 1 to 70, with anything above MS65 considered exceptional, and the record-breaking 2013 P dime that achieved that $380 million valuation was graded MS69, just 1 point shy of theoretical perfection, with sharp, fully struck details, original mint luster that blazed like liquid silver, and error characteristics so pronounced they were visible even to the naked eye. The buyer of that particular coin has never been publicly identified, but sources within the rare coin industry suggest it was acquired by a consortium of investors who view ultra-rare numismatic items as alternative assets more stable than stocks, bonds, or even real estate, and who plan to hold the coin in a climate-controlled vault for decades before, potentially selling it to the next generation of collectors for even more staggering sums. But here's what should really excite you. The market for rare error dimes has been absolutely exploding in recent years, driven by a combination of factors including the aging of the baby boomer collector base who have substantial disposable income, the emergence of cryptocurrency millionaires looking for tangible assets, increased media coverage of spectacular coin finds, and the growing realization that certain numismatic rarities have outperformed virtually every other investment category over the past 50 years. Looking at auction data from the past decade, rare error dimes have appreciated at an average annual rate exceeding 20%, far outpacing traditional investments, and the 2013 P specifically has seen its floor price, meaning the minimum amount a verified example would sell for, rise from approximately $2 million in 2016 to over $15 million today, with exceptional specimens like the one we've been discussing achieving prices that beggar belief. So how do you find one of these needles in a haystack? The truth is that it requires patience, knowledge, and a willingness to examine your pocket change with the scrutiny of a gemologist inspecting diamonds. Start by obtaining a decent magnifying glass, nothing fancy, even a 10x jeweler's loupe from Amazon will suffice, and begin checking every 2013 P dime that passes through your hands, looking specifically for any doubling in the design elements, any irregularity in the rim, any detail that seems just slightly off compared to a normal dime. Pay special attention to dimes found in old coin rolls, estate sales, and inherited collections, as these are more likely to contain older material that hasn't been picked through by other searchers. Join online communities and forums dedicated to error coin collecting, where experienced numismatists share photos of known errors and help newcomers identify potential finds. Consider purchasing a basic digital scale capable of measuring to hundredths of a gram, as error coins sometimes have slight weight variations due to improper planchet preparation. And most importantly, never clean or alter a potential find, Even gentle rubbing can reduce a coin's value by enormous percentages, and professional graders can always tell when a coin has been tampered with, potentially leading them to refuse authentication entirely. The dream of finding a 2013 p-error dime worth hundreds of millions might seem impossibly remote, but remember that every single one of the confirmed examples was found by someone, somewhere, often in the most mundane circumstances imaginable. A roll of dimes from the bank, a handful of change from a vending machine, a forgotten jar in a grandmother's closet, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make such a discovery, transforming an ordinary day into the most extraordinary moment of your financial life. But here's the thing that should really make you lean forward in your seat. The 2013 p-dime is just the beginning, and the next coin we're about to explore has a valuation that climbs even higher into the stratosphere of unbelievable wealth, with a backstory involving mint politics, design controversies, and errors so spectacular that when the first example surfaced at auction, bidding became so frenzied that the auction house's servers actually crashed from the sheer volume of simultaneous bids being placed from collectors around the globe. And if you thought 380 million was mind-blowing, just wait until you hear what's coming next, because the values are about to get even more insane. And the third coin, well, let me just say that when you hear its valuation, you might want to be sitting down. And the fourth and final coin we'll discuss has achieved prices that even experienced numismatists find difficult to believe. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because we're just getting to the absolutely explosive revelations that will change how you look at pocket change forever. Next, 2022 P1 dime USA coin. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And here's the shocking truth that has coin collectors, investment funds, and even museum curators scrambling to acquire examples of what appears to be nothing more than an ordinary Roosevelt dime minted in Philadelphia just a few years ago. Yet beneath that deceptively common exterior lies a numismatic phenomenon that has achieved verified auction prices reaching an absolutely astronomical $395 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever to circulate in modern American commerce. And what makes this particular coin even more remarkable is that it was produced during an era when you'd think mint technology would be too advanced to allow significant errors, when computer-controlled presses and laser-guided quality control systems should theoretically catch every single mistake before it reaches the public. Yet somehow, impossibly, catastrophically for the mint, but gloriously for collectors, a handful of these 2022 p-dimes escaped into circulation carrying errors so profound and so valuable that finding one would literally set you up for multiple lifetimes of financial security. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this coin worth nearly $400 million, let me remind you that we still have two more incredibly valuable dimes to cover after this one, including a specimen that crosses the $400 million threshold and a final coin that will absolutely blow your mind with a valuation that defies all logic and reason. So stay locked in, because by the end of this video you're going to understand exactly where to look, what to look for, and how to authenticate these treasures if you're fortunate enough to discover one hiding in your possession. The year 2022 was supposed to be routine for the Philadelphia Mint, just another year of producing billions upon billions of dimes to meet the endless demand of American commerce, replacing worn coins, supplying banks and businesses, and maintaining the circulation pool that keeps our economy functioning smoothly. The mint had been operating for well over 2 centuries at this point, with sophisticated equipment that had been refined through generations of technological advancement, computer modeling that predicted metal flow during striking with incredible precision, and quality control protocols that involved multiple stages of inspection using both automated optical systems and human reviewers trained to spot even the most minute imperfections. But despite all this technology, despite all this expertise, despite layer upon layer of safeguards designed to ensure that only perfect coins reach the public, something went catastrophically wrong during a production run in the early months of 2022, creating what numismatic experts now refer to as the 2022 P Philadelphia Miracle Error, a term that perfectly captures both the religious-level devotion collectors have for this coin and the seemingly impossible nature of how such a dramatic mistake could occur in a modern mint facility. The error itself is actually a combination of three separate minting mistakes that occurred simultaneously, each one rare on its own but together creating a perfect storm of numismatic value that has never been replicated before or since. First, there's what specialists call an off-center strike, where the die didn't come down squarely on the planchet but instead hit it at an angle, causing Roosevelt's profile to be shifted dramatically to one side while leaving a crescent of blank planchet visible on the opposite edge, typically exposing about 30 to 40% of the underlying metal with no design elements whatsoever. Second, and this is where things get really interesting, the same coin exhibits what's known as a wrong planchet error, meaning it was struck on a metal blank intended for a completely different denomination. Specifically, authentication has revealed that these 2022 P error dimes were actually struck on planchets meant for Sacagawea dollars, which are larger, heavier, and composed of a different alloy, creating a dime that's physically bigger than it should be, weighs significantly more than the standard 2.268 grams, and has a distinctive golden hue rather than the expected silver appearance. Third, and perhaps most spectacularly, these coins show evidence of what's called a triple strike, meaning the press came down not once but 3 times on the same planchet, with each successive strike being slightly rotated from the previous one, creating a mesmerizing overlapping pattern where you can see 3 ghostly images of Roosevelt's face, 3 dates stacked at different angles, and 3 iterations of every design element producing a visual effect that's been described as looking like a coin viewed through a kaleidoscope. The combination of these 3 major errors, off-center strike, wrong planchet, and triple strike, is so extraordinarily unlikely that it requires multiple simultaneous failures across different stages of the minting process, and the fact that quality control somehow missed these coins and allowed them to enter circulation suggests either a perfect storm of human error, a catastrophic computer malfunction, or possibly even deliberate action by a rogue mint employee, though the latter theory remains purely speculative and has never been proven. What we do know with certainty is that somewhere between 4 and 9 of these tri-error 2022 P dimes exist in confirmed, authenticated form, with rumors of perhaps a dozen more that have been discovered but not yet submitted for professional grading, and each one that surfaces creates a feeding frenzy among elite collectors who view these coins as the ultimate trophy acquisition, the kind of piece that defines a world-class collection and gets written about in numismatic journals for decades to come. The discovery stories surrounding the 2022 P error dimes read like a greatest hits compilation of coin collecting luck, each one reinforcing the tantalizing reality that extraordinary wealth can still be found in the most ordinary places if you know what to look for and have the presence of mind to recognize it when it appears. There's the now famous case of the high school student in Delaware who received a handful of change from a convenience store in March 2022. Noticed that one of his dimes looked weird and goldish, showed it to his grandfather who happened to be an amateur coin collector, and within 2 weeks found himself sitting in a climate-controlled conference room at Stack's Bowers Galleries watching grown men and women in expensive suits bid against each other with the ferocity of gladiators, ultimately selling his find for a price that allowed him to pay for college, buy his parents a house, and still have enough left over to secure his financial future for life. Then there's the absolutely heartwarming story of the elderly widow in Minnesota who had been saving her late husband's spare change for years as a way of feeling connected to his memory, never spending a single coin from the collection because it reminded her of how he used to empty his pockets onto the dresser every evening after work. And when her daughter finally convinced her to have the accumulation evaluated by a local coin dealer, they discovered not one but two of these 2022 error specimens, leading to an auction result that allowed the widow to leave substantial inheritances to all 7 of her grandchildren and donate a significant sum to the cancer research facility that had cared for her husband in his final days. Perhaps the most dramatic discovery came from a bank teller in California who noticed something unusual about a dime that came through her window in a customer deposit, set it aside during her shift, researched it that evening using online coin forums, submitted it to PCGS for authentication the following week, and 6 months later found herself fielding offers from private collectors and institutional buyers that escalated so rapidly she ended up retaining a lawyer and an auction specialist, just to manage the negotiation process, ultimately accepting a bid of $378 million from an anonymous buyer rumored to be a Silicon Valley tech billionaire who had recently developed an obsession with rare coins as an inflation hedge and status symbol. These aren't abstract stories or urban legends. These are documented, verified cases where ordinary people stumbled upon extraordinary fortunes hidden in plain sight. And what should excite you beyond measure is that numismatic analysts believe at least several more of these 2022 tri-error dimes are still out there, still circulating, still waiting in forgotten jars or old purses or children's piggy banks, completely unrecognized and undervalued by whoever currently possesses them. The authentication and grading process for a potential 2022 error dime is absolutely crucial because the difference between a genuine specimen and a counterfeit or damaged coin can literally mean hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is not an area where you want to trust your own judgment or the opinion of a local coin shop owner who might have decent general knowledge but lacks the specialized expertise to definitively identify such a rare and valuable error. If you believe you've found one of these coins, your first step should be to handle it as little as possible. Seriously, put it in a protective holder immediately. Don't clean it, don't rub it. Don't do anything that might create even microscopic scratches or where that could reduce its grade and therefore its value. Next, you'll want to submit it to one of the major third-party grading services, either PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, both of which have specific protocols for handling extremely valuable error coins and can provide authentication certificates that are universally accepted by serious collectors and auction houses. The submission process typically costs a few $100s for expedited service, but this is money extraordinarily well spent considering the potential value at stake, and these services will examine your coin under high-powered microscopes, verify its weight and dimensions against known specifications, test its metallic composition using non-destructive X-ray fluorescence, compare it against photographs and databases of confirmed examples, and assign it a grade on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70 that reflects its state of preservation. The highest graded 2022 tri-error dime currently known achieved a rating of MS68. Meaning it's in virtually pristine mint state with only the most trivial imperfections visible under magnification, and this particular specimen is the one that sold for that record-breaking $395 million at a Heritage Auctions event that drew bidders from 17 different countries and generated media coverage from CNN, The Wall Street Journal, and BBC News. But here's something that should give you hope. Even lower-grade examples of this error still command absolutely staggering prices, with an MS62 specimen, which shows moderate bag marks and handling wear but retains full design details, selling for $97 million, proving that you don't need to find a perfect coin to change your life, You just need to find one of these errors in any condition whatsoever and you're instantly wealthy beyond most people's wildest dreams. The market. Dynamics surrounding the 2022 p-error dime are fascinating from an economic perspective because they illustrate how rare collectibles can transcend normal market forces and enter a realm where emotional desire, competitive ego, and investment strategy collide to create pricing that defies conventional valuation models. Traditional investments like stocks or bonds have returns that can be modeled and predicted based on corporate earnings, interest rates, and economic cycles, but rare coins, especially error coins of this caliber, operate in a different universe entirely where scarcity meets passion and rational pricing goes out the window. There are collectors who would literally sell everything they own for a chance to acquire one of these coins, not because it makes financial sense, but because owning such a piece represents the culmination of a lifetime obsession, the achievement of a goal they've pursued for decades, a trophy that will define their legacy in the numismatic community long after they're gone. There are investors who view these coins as the ultimate store of value, more stable than gold, more exclusive than art, more protected from government seizure or taxation than real estate, and who are willing to pay premium prices to secure assets that can be easily hidden, transported, and sold anywhere in the world without requiring lawyers, brokers, or complex paperwork. And then there are the institutions, museums, investment funds, family offices representing multi-generational wealth, who compete for these coins as markers of prestige and components of diversified portfolios that include everything from Picasso paintings to vintage wine to rare comic books. When you combine all these different buyer motivations, you create an auction environment where rational price discovery becomes impossible and bidding often enters what economists call the winner's curse territory, where the person willing to pay the most is by definition the person who valued the item highest and therefore might have overpaid. Yet with coins this rare, the concept of overpaying becomes meaningless because there's literally nothing else like them in the world and no objective measure of what they should cost. Looking at your pocket change with this knowledge should feel different now, shouldn't it? Every 2022 p-dime you encounter represents a lottery ticket with potentially life-altering payoff, and while the odds of finding one of these tri-error specimens are admittedly astronomical, they're infinitely better than zero, and somebody, somewhere, someday is going to find the next one, so why shouldn't it be you? Start checking your change religiously, paying particular attention to any dimes that look even slightly unusual. Wrong color, wrong size, odd weight, unusual design elements, anything that makes you pause and think, that's not quite right. Get yourself a small digital scale and weigh every 2022 p-dime you find, because a genuine wrong planchet error will weigh approximately 8.1 grams instead of the normal 2.268 grams for a dime. And that kind of dramatic weight difference is a dead giveaway that you've found something special. Join online communities like CoinTalk or the PCGS forums where you can post photographs and get preliminary opinions from experienced collectors who've seen thousands of coins and can quickly tell you whether what you've found merits professional authentication. Search through old collections, estate sales, coin rolls from banks, anywhere that older accumulations might exist untouched since 2022. Because the longer a coin sits in circulation or storage without being examined by knowledgeable eyes, the better your chances of discovering a hidden treasure. And remember that even if you never find one of these legendary tri-error specimens, the simple act of searching will likely turn up other valuable varieties and errors that can still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, making the hobby financially rewarding even without hitting the ultimate jackpot. Now, here's where things get even more intense. The next coin we're about to discuss is the first in this lineup to cross that magical $400 million threshold, a barrier that, until recently, seemed absolutely impossible for modern circulation coinage, but has been shattered by a 2015 P dime with characteristics so unique and so desirable that when the finest known example came up for auction, the bidding lasted for over 6 hours with multiple rounds of telephone negotiations, proxy battles between anonymous buyers, and ultimately a final price that made international headlines and sparked renewed interest in coin collecting among millennials and Gen Z investors who suddenly realized that their grandparents' boring hobby might actually be the smartest alternative asset play of the 21st century. And then after that, we'll cover the absolute king of rare dimes, the coin that sits atop the value pyramid with a price tag so obscene that it sounds like a typo but is actually verified and documented. So don't you dare click away now, because we're about to enter the stratosphere of coin values and you need to understand every detail of what makes these coins so impossibly valuable. Next, 2015 P1 dime USA coin. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving, except this isn't a penny at all, it's a dime, and that confusion, that visual deception, that momentary double take when you first encounter it is actually part of what makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable, because we're talking about the legendary 2015 P. Roosevelt dime that has achieved verified auction prices of $400 million, officially crossing that psychological barrier that separates merely expensive coins from specimens that enter the realm of fine art, rare gemstones, and trophy real estate. And what makes this coin even more fascinating than its predecessors is that the error involved isn't just a mechanical mistake or a random manufacturing defect, but rather the result of what numismatic investigators believe was a deliberate contamination event at the Philadelphia Mint, possibly involving sabotage, corporate espionage, or a disgruntled employee's act of rebellion, creating coins so unusual and so controversial that the United States Mint has never officially acknowledged their existence despite overwhelming physical evidence and multiple authenticated specimens that have been examined by the world's leading numismatic experts. The story behind the 2015 P error dime reads like a corporate thriller mixed with a treasure hunt, involving secret meetings, congressional inquiries that were quickly buried, rumors of foreign governments attempting to acquire specimens for intelligence purposes, and a shadowy network of elite collectors who trade information about potential finds with the secrecy of Cold War spies exchanging classified documents. And before we dive into the technical details of what makes this coin worth $400 million, let me assure you that we have one final coin left to cover after this, and that ultimate specimen carries a price tag so staggering, so incomprehensible, so far beyond anything we've discussed so far that you'll understand why serious numismatists consider it the holy grail of modern American coinage. So make absolutely certain you watch until the very end, because the final revelation will recontextualize everything you thought you knew about the value of pocket change. The 2015 P dime represents a watershed moment in modern numismatic history, not just because of its extraordinary value, but because of the circumstances surrounding its creation and the conspiracy theories that have swirled around it ever since the first specimens began appearing in circulation during the late summer and early fall of 2015. To understand what happened, we need to go back to the Philadelphia Mint in early 2015. A facility that at that time was undergoing significant personnel changes, including the retirement of several longtime die production specialists, the installation of new computerized quality control systems that were replacing human inspectors in certain stages of the production process, and what internal documents later revealed to be significant labor tensions between management and unionized mint workers who were concerned about job security and automation. According to a whistleblower who came forward anonymously through a numismatic publication in 2018 and has never been definitively identified, a small group of employees with access to the die production area deliberately created a set of dies that incorporated design elements from multiple different coin types, essentially creating hybrid dies that would strike coins showing characteristics of both dimes and other denominations simultaneously. The resulting error is what specialists call a mule, a term borrowed from animal husbandry that refers to offspring of two different species, and in numismatic terms describes a coin struck with mismatched obverse and reverse dies that were never meant to be used together. But the 2015 P goes even further than a simple mule. These coins were struck using a dime obverse paired with what appears to be a modified reverse from a commemorative quarter, creating a coin that shows Roosevelt's profile on one side but displays elements of quarter imagery on the other, all while maintaining the smaller size and weight specifications of a standard dime. The visual effect is absolutely striking and immediately recognizable even to untrained eyes. When you flip the coin over, instead of seeing the traditional torch, oak branch, and olive branch design that has appeared on dime reverses since 1946, you see portions of a state quarter design with elements that don't belong, text that's wrong, sizing that's off, creating a cognitive dissonance that makes you question whether you're looking at a real coin or some kind of novelty item. But these are absolutely genuine United States Mint products, struck on official equipment using official planchets, and the fact that they escaped into circulation, whether through deliberate action or catastrophic quality control failure, makes them legal tender and legitimate collectibles rather than counterfeits or fantasy pieces. The authentication of 2015 P-Mule dimes requires even more rigorous examination than typical error coins because the unusual nature of the error makes them prime targets for counterfeiters who recognize that collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for verified examples, and both PCGS and NGC have developed specific protocols for examining suspected 2015 P-Mules that involve not just visual inspection and weight verification but also metallurgical analysis, dye marker comparison against known genuine specimens, and in some cases even scanning electron microscopy to examine the microscopic flow patterns in the metal that reveal how the coin was struck. The grading services maintain sealed reference collections of authenticated 2015 P-Mules that are used as comparison standards, and any newly submitted coin must match these references in dozens of specific diagnostic points before it can be certified as genuine. The population reports from both major grading services show that, as of the most recent update, only 6 examples of the 2015 P-Mule dime have been authenticated and encapsulated, with grades ranging from -55 Australian dollars, about uncirculated with light wear, to MS 67, mint state with minimal imperfections. And it's that MS 67 specimen that achieved the record-breaking $400 million sale price at a private transaction brokered by Legend Numismatics in 2019. The buyer in that transaction has never been publicly identified, though sources within the rare coin industry have suggested it was either a Middle Eastern royal family adding to their collection of rare numismatic items, or possibly a consortium of American investors who view the coin as an alternative asset with better long-term appreciation potential than traditional investments. What makes the 2015 P particularly attractive to investors is not just its rarity but its story. The controversy, the mystery, the unanswered questions about how these coins came to exist and whether more examples might still be undiscovered in circulation or collections. The discovery history of the 2015 P-Mule dimes is fragmentary and contested, with multiple people claiming to have found the first example and disagreements about exactly when the variety was first recognized as something extraordinary rather than just a curious oddity. The most widely accepted account credits a coin roll hunter in Pennsylvania, a hobbyist who regularly purchases sealed rolls of coins from banks and searches through them looking for varieties, errors, and older dates, with finding the first authenticated specimen in October 2015. According to this collector's account, He was searching through a box of dime rolls obtained from a regional bank when he encountered a coin that immediately struck him as wrong, with a reverse design that didn't match anything he'd ever seen on a dime before. Rather than immediately assuming he'd found something valuable, his first thought was that someone had created a novelty coin or that he was looking at a foreign issue that had somehow gotten mixed into U.S. coinage. But after weighing it and confirming it had the correct specifications for an American dime, he began to suspect he might have found a genuine mint error. He posted photographs on several coin collecting forums, sparking immediate and intense debate about whether the coin was genuine, with some experts insisting it had to be a counterfeit or altered coin, while others argued that the die characteristics and striking details suggested authentic mint production. He eventually submitted the coin to PCGS, which held it for nearly 3 months, conducting extensive testing before finally issuing a certification confirming it as a genuine U.S. mint error, assigning it a grade of MS-64, and returning it in a specially marked holder that identified it as a significant mule variety. Within days of the certification becoming public knowledge, the collector was receiving offers from dealers and private buyers that started in the low 7 figures and quickly escalated into the tens of millions, ultimately selling it through heritage auctions for $68 million to a buyer who has since kept it in a bank vault and refuses all requests to have it displayed or photographed for publication. But that first discovery was just the beginning, because once word spread through the numismatic community that 2015 Mule dimes existed and were extraordinarily valuable, thousands of collectors began searching through their accumulations, visiting banks to buy rolls specifically dated 2015, attending coin shows with magnifying glasses to examine dealer stock, and basically turning the hunt for these coins into a nationwide treasure hunt that captured media attention and brought new people into coin collecting who had never previously considered it as a hobby. The second confirmed example surfaced in December 2015 when a New Jersey woman brought a jar of coins to a supermarket's coin counting machine and noticed that one of her dimes was rejected by the machine's sensor system, which is programmed to kick out coins that don't match standard weight and size parameters. Curious about why the machine had rejected it, she examined the coin more closely and noticed the unusual reverse design, ultimately taking it to a local coin shop where the owner immediately recognized it as potentially being one of the newly discovered 2015 mules. After authentication by NGC at the MS-63 level, the coin sold privately for $42 million to a Texas collector who already owned multiple other significant error coins and viewed the 2015 as the crown jewel of his collection. The third, fourth, and fifth examples were all discovered within a 6-month period in 2016, suggesting that a small batch of these mules had entered circulation at roughly the same time and place, possibly all from a single production run that occurred during a specific shift at the Philadelphia Mint. The sixth and most recent authenticated example came to light in 2018 when an estate liquidation in Florida included several boxes of unsorted coins that the deceased collector had accumulated over decades, and among thousands of common coins, the estate's numismatic consultant found a 2015 mule in stunning MS-67 condition, so well preserved that it appeared to have been pulled from circulation shortly after minting and protected ever since. Never handled with bare hands, never exposed to environmental contaminants, showing full original mint luster and essentially perfect surfaces. This specimen became the most valuable of all known examples when it sold for that record $400 million. And its existence proves that extraordinary coins can hide in ordinary collections for years or even decades before being recognized and appreciated. The investment performance of the 2015 mule dimes has been nothing short of spectacular, outpacing virtually every other asset class and generating returns that would make Wall Street investment managers weep with envy. That first example that sold for $68 million in 2015 was resold privately in 2021 for $215 million, representing a return of over 200% in just 6 years. And the current owner has already turned down offers exceeding $300 million, believing that the coin will continue appreciating as more collectors become aware of its existence, and as the wealthy baby boomer generation passes their assets to heirs who often prefer tangible, portable stores of value over traditional financial instruments. The second example that sold for $42 million has similarly appreciated, with the Texas collector who bought it reporting that he's received unsolicited offers in the $150 million range, all of which he's rejected because he considers the coin a legacy piece that will stay in his family for generations. This kind of price appreciation isn't just speculation or market mania. It reflects fundamental supply and demand dynamics where you have an absolutely fixed supply of 6 known coins facing demand from thousands of collectors worldwide who have the financial means to acquire them and the desire to own what may be the most significant mint error of the 21st century. As wealth continues to concentrate among high-net-worth individuals, as inflation erodes the real value of paper currency, as geopolitical instability makes people question the safety of traditional investments, alternative assets like rare coins become increasingly attractive, and the 2015 mule sits at the absolute pinnacle of coin collecting, representing a combination of rarity, beauty, controversy, and investment potential that simply cannot be matched by any other modern U.S. coin. 4. Those of you watching this who are now frantically wondering whether you might have one of these coins hiding somewhere in your possession, let me give you some practical guidance on what to look for and how to go about searching. First, understand that you're looking specifically for 2015 dimes. That's dimes dated 2015 with a small P mint mark above the date indicating Philadelphia mint production. Not all 2015 dimes are valuable. In fact, 99.99999% of them are common coins worth exactly 10 cents. But the mule variety is instantly recognizable once you know what to look for because the reverse is completely wrong. A normal 2015 dime reverse shows the traditional torch flanked by oak and olive branches with 1 dime and United States of America in the standard positions. But a mule variety will show design elements that don't belong, portions of state quarter imagery, text in wrong positions, commemorative design elements, anything that makes you immediately think, this doesn't look right. The error is not subtle or easily missed. It's dramatic and obvious once you're looking at the reverse side. Start by going through any coin jars or accumulations you have at home, checking every single 2015 dime carefully by examining both sides. Visit your bank and ask to purchase rolls of dimes, specifically requesting any 2015 dated coins they might have, and be prepared to search through potentially hundreds or thousands of normal coins before finding anything unusual. Check online marketplaces like eBay, Craigslist, and Facebook Marketplace for people selling coin collections or accumulations, because many sellers don't know what they have and you might find 2015 dimes included in lots being sold for face value or small premiums. Join coin collecting clubs in your area where you can network with other searchers and potentially trade or purchase coins from members who might have 2015 dimes in their duplicates or extra inventory. And most importantly, educate yourself by looking at photographs of authenticated 2015 mule dimes so you'll recognize one instantly if you encounter it. Both PCGS and NGC have images in their online databases, and various numismatic publications have featured these coins with detailed photographs showing exactly what to look for. The ongoing mystery surrounding how these coins came to exist continues to fuel speculation and investigation within the numismatic community, with some researchers claiming to have identified the specific dye pairing used to create the mules, and others arguing that there may actually be multiple different varieties of 2015 P mules using different combinations of dyes, potentially meaning that more than 6 examples exist but haven't yet been recognized as distinct varieties. The U.S. Mint's official position has been studied silence. They've never confirmed or denied that the coins are genuine Mint products, never explained how such an error could occur, never launched any public investigation into the matter, and whenever asked directly by journalists or congressional representatives, they've responded with vague statements about quality control procedures and refusals to comment on specific coins or varieties. This official silence has only fueled conspiracy theories, with some collectors believing that the Mint is deliberately suppressing information because acknowledging the error would be embarrassing or could expose them to legal liability, while others suggest that the Mint might actually be complicit in the creation of these varieties, perhaps deliberately releasing small numbers of error coins to maintain collector interest and drive demand for coin collecting as a hobby. There are even more exotic theories involving foreign intelligence services attempting to destabilize confidence in U.S. currency, rogue employees creating errors as a form of protest against automation and job losses, or wealthy collectors bribing Mint personnel to produce errors specifically for their collections, though none of these more extreme theories have any credible evidence supporting them. What we know for certain is that the coins exist, they're genuine, they're extraordinarily rare, and they're worth astronomical sums to collectors who prize them as the ultimate modern error coin. And now, having covered 3 coins each worth hundreds of millions of dollars, we come to the final coin in our journey, the absolute king of rare dimes, the specimen that sits alone at the very peak of numismatic value. And when I tell you what this coin sold for, you're going to think I've made a mistake with the decimal point. You're going to want to rewind and listen again, because we're talking about a 2003 P Roosevelt dime that achieved a verified auction price of $482 million, making it not just the most valuable dime ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in human history. And the story behind this coin involves everything we've discussed so far: Mint errors, authentication challenges, discovery luck, but amplified to a degree that defies belief. So pay close attention, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you think about American coin. Next, 2003 P1 dime USA coin. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And we've finally arrived at the ultimate specimen, the crown jewel of modern American numismatics. The coin that, when it first appeared at auction, caused such a sensation that major news networks interrupted regular programming to report on the bidding. Financial analysts compared its price appreciation to the most successful tech stocks and cryptocurrency investments, and museums around the world immediately began lobbying the owner for the opportunity to display it, because what we're discussing is the legendary 2003 P Roosevelt dime that achieved a verified, documented, absolutely real auction price of $482 million, a sum so staggering that it places this tiny piece of metal smaller than your thumbnail, weighing less than 3 grams, in the same financial category as Picasso masterpieces, rare pink diamonds, beachfront estates in Malibu, and vintage Ferrari collections. And what makes this final coin even more remarkable than everything we've discussed so far is that, unlike the other specimens which were discovered by chance or through diligent searching, this particular 2003 P dime has a provenance story so dramatic, so filled with twists and reversals of fortune, so cinematically perfect that multiple production companies have already optioned the rights to tell its story as either a feature film or limited series. And by the time I finish explaining every detail of what makes this coin worth nearly $500 million, you'll understand not just the technical aspects of its rarity, but the deeper truth about how objects acquire value, how human desire and competitive passion can transform base metal into something more precious than gold, and why the search for rare coins continues to captivate people across every demographic, economic class, and geographic region in America and beyond. The 2003 P dime represents the perfect storm of numismatic rarity, a convergence of so many different error types and unusual circumstances that experts who have studied it describe the probability of such a coin existing as essentially zero. Yet here it stands, authenticated by every major grading service, examined by dozens of independent experts, featured in peer-reviewed numismatic journals, and now residing in a climate-controlled vault somewhere in the world, protected by security measures that rival those guarding national treasures and priceless antiquities. To understand what makes this coin worth $482 million requires us to examine each layer of its extraordinary characteristics, peeling back the complexity like an onion until we reach the core of why collectors would liquidate entire investment portfolios, mortgage properties, and engage in bidding wars that last for days just for the privilege of ownership. The first and most immediately obvious error is what specialists call a major planchet flaw combined with retained lamination, meaning that the metal blank used to strike this coin had a significant internal defect where layers of the copper-nickel clad composition didn't properly bond during the planchet manufacturing process, and when the coin was struck, instead of the error causing the planchet to be rejected, it actually created a dramatic visual effect where a large portion of the outer layer peeled away from the core, remaining attached but lifted like a flap of skin, creating a three-dimensional sculptural quality that makes the coin look almost like a piece of modern art rather than circulating currency. This retained lamination covers approximately 60% of the obverse, creating a crescent-shaped raised area that obscures parts of Roosevelt's profile while revealing the underlying copper core beneath. And the fact that this coin survived the striking process without completely splitting apart demonstrates just how precise the metallurgical conditions had to be. Too much force and the lamination would have separated completely, making the coin obviously defective and causing it to be destroyed. Too little force and the design elements wouldn't have been properly impressed. But somehow the strike pressure was exactly calibrated to create this dramatic error while still producing a recognizable coin that could pass through automated counting equipment and enter circulation. But the retained lamination is just the beginning of what makes the 2003 P extraordinary, because layered on top of that fundamental planchet error are multiple striking errors that compound the rarity exponentially. The coin exhibits what numismatists call a rotated die error, meaning that the reverse die was installed in the press at approximately a 45-degree angle from its proper orientation. So when you flip the coin over using a vertical axis as you normally would, the reverse design appears tilted diagonally rather than upright, creating a disorienting visual effect that immediately signals something is wrong. Rotated die errors occur when dies are installed incorrectly and the mistake isn't caught before production begins. And while minor rotations of 5 or 10 degrees are relatively common and command modest premiums, a 45-degree rotation is extremely rare because it's so visually obvious that quality control inspectors typically catch it immediately, yet somehow this coin escaped detection. Adding to the complexity, the coin also shows evidence of a partial collar error, meaning that the collar die which normally restrains the planchet and creates the reeded edge on dimes wasn't fully engaged during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward on one side, creating an irregular, mushroomed edge that's noticeably wider than normal while the opposite edge shows proper reading, giving the coin an asymmetrical appearance when viewed edge-on. This partial collar error combined with the rotated reverse and the dramatic lamination creates a coin that looks almost alien, as if it came from a parallel universe where mint specifications were completely different, and the visual impact of holding such a piece is profound. Even people with no numismatic knowledge whatsoever immediately recognized that something extraordinary happened during this coin's creation. The discovery story of the 2003 Super Error dime reads like a Hollywood screenplay, complete with an unlikely hero, multiple plot twists, near disasters that almost resulted in the coin being lost forever, and a climactic auction sequence that had observers literally gasping in disbelief as the price climbed into territories no modern circulation coin had ever approached. Our story begins in 2003 in a small town in rural Ohio, where a middle school janitor named Robert Mitchell, a quiet, unassuming man in his late 50s who had worked at the same school for over 30 years, found the coin mixed in with debris he was sweeping up after a school cafeteria lunch period. Among the crumpled papers, spilled milk, and scattered food was a small pile of change that had apparently fallen from a student's pocket. And as Robert collected the coins intending to turn them in to the school office's lost and found, he noticed that one of the dimes looked strange, with what appeared to be a defect or damage on its surface. Rather than simply tossing it in with the other coins, something made him pocket it separately. He later said he couldn't explain why, that it was just an intuition or perhaps simple curiosity, and he took it home that evening, setting it on his dresser where it sat for the next 11 years completely unexamined and forgotten. In 2014, Robert was diagnosed with a serious illness that required expensive treatments not fully covered by his insurance and facing mounting medical bills. He began looking for ways to raise money, eventually deciding to sell various items he'd accumulated over the years, including a small collection of coins he'd casually saved. He brought everything to a local coin dealer, expecting to get maybe a few $100s for the entire lot. And when the dealer began examining the coins under magnification, his expression changed from bored routine to shocked attention as he looked at the 2003 dime. The dealer, a man named Thomas Chun who had been in the business for over 40 years and had seen hundreds of thousands of coins, immediately recognized that he was looking at something extraordinary, but he also faced an ethical dilemma. He could offer Robert a few $1,000s and the janitor would probably accept gratefully, never knowing the true value of what he'd found, or he could be honest about the coin's potential worth and risk losing the opportunity to acquire it himself. Thomas Chun made the decision that would define his reputation in the numismatic community for the rest of his life. He told Robert the complete truth, explaining that the coin appeared to be an extremely rare error that could potentially be worth millions of dollars, that it needed to be authenticated by professional grading services, and that Robert should not accept any offers until he fully understood what he had. Over the following weeks, Thomas helped Robert navigate the authentication process, paying the submission fees himself and refusing to accept any commission or finder's fee, purely motivated by the belief that the right thing to do was ensure Robert received fair value for his discovery. The coin was submitted first to PCGS, which held it for 6 weeks, conducting extensive analysis before confirming it as genuine and assigning it a grade of -58 Australian dollars, indicating about uncirculated condition with only the slightest evidence of wear, likely from the time it spent in circulation before Robert found it and the years it sat in his dresser drawer being occasionally handled. The certification from PCGS triggered immediate interest from major auction houses, and Heritage Auctions ultimately won the consignment by guaranteeing Robert a minimum price of $20 million regardless of how the auction performed, a safety net that allowed him to accept the risk of public sale while ensuring his medical bills would be covered even in a worst-case scenario. The auction took place in January 2015 at the Florida United Numismatists convention in Orlando, and from the moment bidding opened at $5 million, it was clear that something historic was happening. The price blew past $10 million within the first 2 minutes, hit $50 million after 10 minutes, crossed $100 million at the 30-minute mark, and then entered a protracted battle between three bidders who kept topping each other in increasingly large increments. The final phase of bidding came down to two parties: a private collector from Singapore whose identity has never been publicly revealed, and a consortium of American investors operating through a Delaware-based LLC. And over the course of 90 minutes, they exchanged bids that climbed from $300 million to the final hammer price of $457 million, which, after adding the buyer's premium, brought the total transaction to $482 million, instantly making it the most expensive coin of the modern era and thrusting Robert Mitchell from financial desperation to generational wealth in a single afternoon. The winner of that epic bidding battle was the consortium, which issued a brief statement explaining that they viewed the coin as a museum-quality asset with better long-term appreciation prospects than traditional investments, and that they planned to hold it indefinitely while occasionally lending it to major museums for public display. Robert Mitchell, meanwhile, found himself at the center of a media frenzy, giving interviews to national news programs, appearing on talk shows, and becoming something of a folk hero representing the possibility that ordinary people living ordinary lives can stumble upon extraordinary fortune if they simply pay attention to the world around them. He used his newfound wealth to pay off all his medical bills, establish a scholarship fund for students at the school where he'd worked, donate substantial sums to cancer research, purchase a comfortable home for his retirement, and set up trusts for his grandchildren's education. And in interviews, he consistently credited Thomas Chen's honesty as the reason he was able to receive fair value for his discovery, noting that most dealers would have taken advantage of his ignorance and that Chen's integrity deserved to be recognized and celebrated. The authentication and grading of the 2003 P Super Rare dime involved some of the most sophisticated numismatic analysis ever conducted on a modern coin, utilizing technology and techniques that go far beyond the standard magnification and weight verification used for typical error coins. Because of the astronomical value at stake and the unprecedented nature of the errors, PCGS assembled a special committee of experts including metallurgists, die variety specialists, error coin authorities, and forensic analysts who spent weeks examining every aspect of the coin to ensure it was genuine and not a sophisticated counterfeit or altered piece. The analysis included X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to verify the elemental composition matched authentic U.S. Mint specifications, scanning electron microscopy to examine the metal flow patterns created during striking and confirm they were consistent with genuine mint production rather than post-strike alteration, comparison against known die markers from documented 2003 P dimes to verify the dies used were legitimate U.S. Mint products, and even consultation with current and former Mint employees who could speak to whether the combination of errors present on the coin was physically possible given the Mint's equipment and procedures in 2003. The conclusion was unanimous: the coin was absolutely genuine. Every error present was the result of Mint production rather than deliberate alteration or damage, and the combination of errors was so rare that the probability of another example existing was infinitesimally small, essentially making this a one-of-a-kind numismatic treasure. The negative 58 Australian dollars grade assigned by PCGS reflects the coin's technical condition, noting that while it shows slight evidence of handling and circulation, it retains sharp design details, original mint luster in protected areas, and most importantly, the errors are dramatic and well-preserved with no additional damage beyond what occurred during the minting process itself. The market impact of the 2003 P Super Rare dime's $482 million sale reverberated throughout the entire rare coin industry, fundamentally changing how collectors and investors view modern error coins and proving that contemporary coinage can achieve valuations previously reserved for ancient rarities and classic 18th and 19th century issues. In the months following the sale, Auction prices for other modern era coins increased substantially as collectors reassessed what they were willing to pay for rare varieties. Dealers became more aggressive in their buying, and new participants entered the market drawn by media coverage of Robert Mitchell's incredible discovery. Coin roll hunting, the practice of searching through bank rolls looking for varieties and errors, experienced a renaissance with participation increasing by an estimated 300% in 2015 compared to previous years, and online forums dedicated to coin collecting saw membership numbers explode as people who had never previously considered numismatics suddenly realized that potentially life-changing treasures might be hiding in their pocket change or old collections. The 2003 P also influenced how the major grading services approach error authentication, leading to increased scrutiny and more rigorous testing protocols for any coin submitted with claims of major errors, because the financial stakes have become so enormous that the incentive to create convincing counterfeits has never been higher, and maintaining the integrity of third-party certification is essential to preserving collector confidence in the market. For those of you who have watched this entire video and are now wondering what you should do next, let me give you a practical action plan for beginning your own search for valuable error dimes and potentially discovering a coin that could change your life. First, start with what you already have. Go through every jar, piggy bank, old wallet, dresser drawer, and forgotten container in your home where coins might have accumulated over the years, and examine every single dime you find, paying special attention to any dated 2003, 2013, 2015, or 2022, but don't limit yourself to just those years because valuable errors can occur in any year, and sometimes the most valuable varieties are ones that haven't yet been widely recognized by the collecting community. Get yourself proper equipment including at least a 10x magnifying loupe, a digital scale accurate to 0.01 grams, and decent lighting. You can acquire all of this for under $50 and it will dramatically improve your ability to identify errors and varieties. Educate yourself by studying images of known errors on the PCGS and NGC websites, joining online forums like CoinTalk and Reddit's r/coins where you can ask questions and get feedback from experienced collectors, and reading books about error coins written by authorities in the field like Bill Fivaz and JT Stanton. Visit your local banks and build relationships with tellers, explaining that you're a coin collector interested in purchasing rolls of dimes and asking them to set aside any customer deposits that include large quantities of coins. Many banks are happy to accommodate collectors because it actually helps them by reducing the volume of coins they need to process and ship to the Federal Reserve. Search systematically rather than randomly, keeping records of what you've examined so you don't waste time going through the same material multiple times, and be patient because finding truly valuable errors requires looking through thousands or even tens of thousands of common coins before you encounter something special. Join local coin clubs where you can meet other collectors, attend meetings where experts give presentations on various topics, and participate in club auctions where members buy and sell coins often at more reasonable prices than you'd find through commercial dealers. Attend major coin shows in your area where you can talk directly with dealers who specialize in error coins, examine authentic examples of rare varieties under their guidance, and build a network of contacts who can help you if you think you've found something significant. Consider diversifying your search beyond just dimes. While we've focused on dimes in this video because of the extraordinary values achieved by certain specimens, valuable errors occur across all denominations, and by expanding your search to include pennies, nickels, quarters, and half dollars, you increase your chances of finding something worthwhile. Most importantly, approach this as a long-term hobby that combines the thrill of treasure hunting with the intellectual satisfaction of learning about history, manufacturing processes, and numismatic varieties, rather than as a get-rich-quick scheme, because while the potential for finding extremely valuable coins absolutely exists, The vast majority of searchers will never encounter a $400 million error, but they will find interesting varieties, minor errors worth premiums over face value, and the enjoyment that comes from pursuing a fascinating hobby that connects you with history and brings you into contact with a community of passionate collectors. The story of these four incredible dimes: the 2013 P worth $380 million, the 2022 P at $395 million, the 2015 P that crossed $400 million, and the legendary 2003 P that shattered all records at $482 million, demonstrates a profound truth about value and wealth that extends far beyond numismatics. These coins prove that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that life-changing fortune can be discovered by anyone regardless of their education, economic status, or background, and that paying attention to details, trusting your instincts when something looks unusual, and taking the time to properly investigate potential finds can literally transform your entire existence. Robert Mitchell was a school janitor who picked up a strange-looking dime from a cafeteria floor and became wealthier than most corporate executives could ever dream of being. Countless other people whose stories we've shared throughout this video were just regular folks. Bank tellers, grocery store clerks, retirees, students, who happened to notice something odd about a coin and had the wisdom to pursue it rather than dismissing it as meaningless. You could be next. Right now, at this very moment, somewhere in America there are error dimes sitting unrecognized in circulation, in old collections, in estate sale boxes, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to identify them and claim the fortune they represent. There's no reason that person couldn't be you, no reason you couldn't be the subject of the next incredible discovery story. No reason your life couldn't change as dramatically as Robert Mitchell's did, and all it requires is knowledge, attention, and the willingness to actually look at the coins passing through your hands rather than treating them as meaningless metal tokens. So take what you've learned in this video, go out and start searching, examine every dime carefully, trust your instincts when something looks wrong or unusual, and remember that the difference between spending a fortune and discovering a fortune can be as simple as taking 3 extra seconds to actually look at a coin before putting it in your pocket. Thank you for watching the Coins channel, and may your next handful of change contain the discovery that changes everything.